Welcome to episode 171 of Auto Off Topic. What's up, Brad?
Not much, Andrew. What's going on with you?
Not much. We're getting up there.
Yeah, closing in on magic number 200.
Yeah, in like a year.
30 days. That's 30 weeks.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Middle of next year.
You know what's probably going to happen, though? There'll probably be a few weeks where a couple will go through, and on those weeks we'll have, we'll double up, so no
We'll
worries.
say it now. We should plan something.
I think we said that a few times before we got to 100 as well, and we didn't plan it.
Yeah, 100's whatever. 200 sounds more impressive, so we'll do something. We'll just figure it out.
All right.
I just wanted
like
to say that on record so that people can make fun of us later.
Which they will.
Yeah. You had some pedantic corrections for TPMS?
Yeah, let me pull them up real quick. I don't know that necessarily they were pedantic corrections, but they were definitely...
All corrections are pedantic.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think they were sent through Messenger, so...
the worst episode ever. They
we had a
got
few...
TPMS wrong.
We had a few people come back at us with some stuff, so...
No, and it was good. Here. It's good. I teased, but it was good information, yeah. It made
I always want it back. I always want info back. Can you pull it up on your end? Did you go to that? I don't remember where it came through. I'm not prepared here, unfortunately.
Off topic,
it sounds like.
Messenger.
On Instagram or Facebook?
Facebook. Well, all right. So, and then one of the other things, like, the thing with TPMS, you kind of introduce a complex system into an already complex system, which is the car. So you've just introduced another failure point of the TPMS system versus like just letting tires go flat.
Right.
Because, I remember in driver's ed, back in my day, they actually reminded everyone that you should check your tire pressure and like clean your windshield, like basic stuff like that. But, even at the most basic, as long as you're going to a reputable place for an oil change, they should be putting air in your tires.
Yeah, they should be doing a general check over of the vehicle.
And then we've talked about it quickly because this is such a foreign thing to me, but where you live in the hot weather state of, the surface of the sun out there in Phoenix, they actually, was it Discount Tire, will do a courtesy check of your tire pressure for free?
Yeah, customer or not.
Yeah. So, like, there's no excuse to, like, not have the proper air pressure in your tires, especially out there. Do you find it?
I honestly, Facebook Messenger, when you have a business account, is impossible to find sometimes.
Well, we can skip it and go back because I think I
Well,
know
they
what
were-
it is.
Well, we had a couple of comments about it. Basically, that the TPMS software is actually pretty complex to do the wheel speed one.
Yes.
It seems like it will be very simple, but apparently very simple is not what it is. And that's part of the reason that we haven't seen it so much in other vehicles. Because in our brain, we're like, oh, it's just wheel speed, it's fine. But what actually is happening is the wheel speed is one thing, but the problem is there's other factors to consider, which is a car on a long turn, the inside wheels are going to be spinning at a slower rate than the outside wheels, and stuff along those lines creates a lot more complexities to the system.
Oh, right. So the software is also going to have to be taking into account like the steering angle sensor, because it's going to say, okay, you're making a long right turn, so the outside left wheels are moving faster and the inside wheels are moving slower. I'm not going to set a TPMS light.
Correct.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it also has to factor in the difference between wheel speed and road noise, which is something else that it would be an issue, I guess, the way it works.
Huh.
Because it can send false readings because of noise transmitted through the sensors.
Interesting.
And also, there has to be a 2 to 3 PSI variance between tire to tire, I guess, is the federal standard. So There's a few different things that cause it to be not as simple as you would think it might be.
Yeah, this is all from Santiago. Dropped us the line.
Yes. Yeah, no, he knows a lot about engineering because I think he's in that
Yeah,
world.
he's one of our several OEM people. Several of our listeners that work for OEMs. So
Yeah. So he has a little more in the know. He actually was also the gentleman that corrected us on our seatbelt conversation about the locking mechanisms.
yeah, the inertia reel.
Yep. So he gave us all that information about how the TPMS sensors work and why running them off of ABS sensors isn't just as simple as, hey, this wheel is spinning different than this wheel. So there's a lot of factors.
Sure does make it nice for the end user, though.
It does. As far as the user experience goes, it's much easier.
Yeah.
I don't ever have to think about it. It just works. And it's funny because I think we talked about it before. I had false readings on mine when I was driving on a dirt road.
All right.
So that could be a combination of wheels spinning at different rates because of loose surfaces and because of road noise. So that could all be it. And he says, ultimately what might happen is it's such a complicated system to engineer that the main thing holding it back might just be patent law.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens in the future with that. But as it stands right now, where the systems will probably stay the way they are for the foreseeable future.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so interesting tidbits. It's always nice to learn new facts about things that you may or may not have known about before.
So, Cannonball.
What? Before we get to Cannonball,
Yeah.
I do have one more subject I wanted to touch on that was based on a conversation that we had about the Tesla truck and then Teslas in general.
Okay.
We had a couple of comments, a couple of things that we said that a couple of different listeners have talked about, and you actually have researched a little more. One of which was the charging end. Like, is it a universal system, like a gas pump?
Sort of.
Okay. So what's the breakdown on that?
There's level 1 and 2 connectors, which have an SAE standard.
Okay.
And then there's level 3 connectors. One is, I think I'm pronouncing it properly. It's got 3 capital letters, CHA, then lowercase de, and then uppercase MO. So, CHAdeMO. And there's there's SAE combo, also called CCS for combo charging system. And that's the most common, it says, used by connectors, used by electric car manufacturers. They're not interchangeable. And then, but like a Tesla will come with an adapter for these. So a Tesla can use these.
So a Tesla can use the SAE standard ones.
Up for level 3, they'll come with an adapter. But then there are Tesla-specific ones that are only for Tesla vehicles.
So if you see a Tesla supercharging station at a gas station, that charger is strictly for Teslas only.
Right. Now, that makes sense because if Tesla is the only one putting out the effort to build a charging network for their product, then sure, they can be proprietary with their connector, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If, that's what doesn't make sense to me. So, like, I guess it's probably because they haven't been regulated yet. So, like, Tesla's kind of like the early adopter thing, right? They're just trying to push the technology. We talked about this before. I guess It's going to probably come down to taking regulations, and when the big 3 are forced to build electric cars, then they'll build the network to go with it. Unless they're just waiting. That's the other thing. They seem to be waiting for someone else to do it. And Tesla couldn't because they wouldn't sell any cars if you couldn't use them anywhere.
Correct. Well, now that's the question I have now. Is these vehicles like the new Mustang coming out?
Yeah.
Can you go on a road trip with that? Because you can't charge it at a Tesla supercharger.
Well, you're going to have to find one that uses a level 3, but it's a universal level 3.
And that's less common right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe this is I know a few years ago Ford sort of rebranded itself as a quote-unquote mobility company.
Okay.
So maybe there is a push and they're going to start doing their own charging stations. I did read a thing in Jalopnik. I never really thought about it in a area that is dense with Teslas, especially in like Southern California. You'll end up sitting in what's like a gas pump line, like when there's no gas.
Yeah, I guess that was a huge issue over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, that's kind of bananas.
Yeah.
And then like out of nowhere, if these Tesla, like Tesla monitors all this stuff, if the stations start to fail, like they have to bring out their big diesel truck generator to charge these things, which is kind of crazy. It kind of adds to
It completely eliminates the purpose of having an electric car.
Yeah, but it like really adds to like that Bond villain-esque type thing where it's like I'll just send my minions out with
polluting diesels
to charge these cars. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But even Tesla can't build enough. They haven't built enough chargers. They just need to build more. But why somebody hasn't got into this game yet, and then why like oil? I mean, I guess from an oil company standpoint, you're like, I don't want to put myself out of business, but it seems like there's money to be made in this if you had the capital to start it.
Which, who has more capital than an oil company?
Yeah, exactly, right? You'd think you'd step in and like you could be for a while, you could probably be the only game in town with charging stations.
I'm sure a lot of that has to do with just being the the older technology. They don't want to push the new stuff. They don't think it's an issue. They don't think that they should put any money into it because it's not actually going to be something in the future.
I guess, but you've already got the properties for gas stations.
Right.
So if they're not like an independently owned gas station, if they're owned by... Oh, that's another good question. I don't know if every gas station is independently owned. I know a lot of them are, especially around where I live here.
Yep.
I don't know how many are corporate owned, like where you are, where like QTs or what are the other ones? The Circle Ks?
I think the QTs are franchised.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. I don't know.
But that
Circle K is like nationwide.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a difference too. You can't force a franchisee necessarily. You can. There are ways, but it's kind of crappy to treat them that way. But yeah, it would seemingly like a corporate controlled all the gas stations. They could start adding electrical vehicle chargers there.
I mean, it makes sense, and I understand what you're coming from. I just, like I said, I think it's just kind of the old way of thinking. They can't get their head wrapped around changing that.
I don't know. I feel like big companies like that like to make money, and they're looking for new ways to make money all the time.
Right, but that's where does the line draw between spending the money and making the money? So how much do you have to spend in order to make it worth it? Well, Tesla has all these superchargers out there, and the majority of cars on the road right now are Teslas.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they make less money on Tesla superchargers than they would on their own proprietary ones.
Okay, so I had a question. I think you had the answer to it. Is what does it cost to use a Tesla supercharger if you own a Tesla?
So there's a couple of answers to that question. The national average to use a supercharger to fill your car is about $20 to $25 at a stop. It's pretty cheap, but still, I thought part of the appeal for a Tesla was the theoretically driving across country for $0.00. So I asked a listener of ours, Ron, who owns a Tesla, to see if he could give me the correct answer. And he says that when you bought your Tesla, he doesn't remember the exact price of the of the option. It might have been like a couple $1,000s. If you paid for the option, your Tesla supercharger stops would be free for the life of the car. And that's transferable from owner to owner. So when he was shopping for them, because he bought a used one, he wanted to make sure he got one that had that free supercharger option, which obviously makes the car worth a few $1,000s more even on the used market. So what happens is, say you wanted to drive your Tesla from Boston to Chicago.
Okay. I've got a week to kill.
No, it doesn't take much more time than driving a regular car.
Well, you got to make 20-minute charging stops, but I guess
how long does it take you to get gas?
Oh, if I'm in a hurry by myself, 10 minutes.
Okay, so
5
add a little
minutes.
more time. Add a little more time to that. So what happens is you set your start at your destination, and it finds a route a route from A to B that has enough charging stations to make it work for you. Now, I guess how it works is the first 20 minutes of charge is so say if your car gets 250 miles to a tank of electricity.
Okay.
An electric charge. So say your car gets 250 miles to electric charge, which is like a base model, early Model S. What'll happen is it will find fuel stations that the first one will be 225 miles from your starting point with a full battery.
Okay.
But then because the last 20% of the battery fill takes the longest,
Right.
it's not like filling a gas tank where it doesn't matter how much is in there, it's going to dump it at the same rate. Once the batteries are up to a certain percentage, 75 or 80%, that last 20% takes a lot longer to get into the car. So from that point forward, it'll set your stops at 180 miles. So it'll make you stop every 180 miles for the next, however many stops you need to make. So worst case scenario, you're running 3,000 miles from coast to coast, right? So if you're doing 3,000 miles and you're doing 200, say average 200 miles a stop, you have 15 stops,
Yeah.
times what, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So what's that come out to? 15 times 20 is what, 300?
Yeah.
And then 300
300 minutes divided by 60.
divided by 60. So that's 5 hours of stops from
That
coast to
sounds about
coast.
right. But you're not going to, that's assuming you're driving nonstop.
Oh, 100%. I mean, obviously you're stopping the food stops, and at a food stop, if you're going to take 30 minutes to an hour, you can charge the car all the way up. And obviously, you park the car overnight, you're going to charge it all the way up. So those are different. There's different variables, obviously. But, I mean, to drive from Boston to Los Angeles and only have 5 hours of theoretical stopping time isn't that big of a deal.
No. And I was just thinking when you're saying 180 miles, roughly when I do long road trips, I get to
200
about-
miles is the number.
Yeah, I get to about a half
Yeah.
a tank in the car, which could
Yeah.
be 150 to 180, maybe 200 if I'm being good.
Yep.
And by that point, I need to go to the bathroom, and I want to walk around
Yeah.
for a few minutes.
As a general rule, I go 200 miles.
Yeah.
Because that's when even if I feel like I should be going further, I try to force myself to stop every 200 miles, just get out and stretch, just because it eliminates a lot of that fatigue. And maybe the first run of the day I'll go 3 or 4 hours, whatever. But that 200 mile average is usually a good few hours, and you want to move, you want to circulate the blood in your legs, and not have your legs falling asleep and be uncomfortable and have a sore back, and it's the best way to do it. So I was thinking about that the other day too, when I was talking to Ron about the mileage, and I was like, yeah, 180 miles is reasonable because 200 miles is my number anyway, so totally fine.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with range anxiety that people talk about. Well, what makes you comfortable? Because if I can get an electric car that'll do 300 miles, then I'm fine. Because 300 miles, that's back and forth to work for the entire week, and then some.
Right.
Like, that's a tank of gas gets me, actually, in the WRX, tank of gas gets me like maybe 250. So in Stephanie's car, it gets a little bit better mileage. That'll do like 300. So anywhere between 250 and 300's pretty darn reasonable for a charge.
Yeah, I do about 250 miles a week to and from work. It's about 25 miles each way.
Yeah.
So, oh wait, no, sorry, it's not. That's lied. It's 25 minutes. I'm confusing time and distance. Time and distance here again. It's like 13 miles. So I don't do anywhere near that. So what's that? 13? It's 130 miles. So yeah, if I had a car that did 200 miles, I wouldn't have an issue driving all week.
Exactly.
So, and obviously I have a car that gets 500 miles to a tank, so I never stop for fuel anymore, which is kind of nice. I go to the gas station for coffee.
All right. So speaking of driving nonstop,
Yep.
Cannonball.
Yes.
Started in the
Cannonball Baker's Sea to Shiny Sea.
Yeah. So made famous by Brock Yates, and then later on the cheesy 80s movie with Burt Reynolds.
Yep.
It was actually supposed to be more of a serious movie, but they ended up thinking it would be funnier as a comedy.
Well, most things are usually funnier as a comedy.
Yeah.
You say cheesy, like it's a bad thing.
No,
No,
I don't.
I just want people to know that that's a great movie and you should watch it.
I'm assuming that they've seen it if they're listening to this podcast. I hope they have.
Every car guy should see that movie. It's actually, funny story, it's not available on streaming anywhere right now.
Weird.
And I just ordered it on Amazon like a month ago because I wanted to watch it. Because I haven't seen it in so many years. It's like $6 on Amazon for a copy of it.
So the Brock Yates book is pretty interesting. He does like the beginning of it where he's driving with Dan Gurney, and then a bunch of it afterwards is other anecdotes from people that also did they do like a quote unquote race. And it was really to protest like 55 mile an hour speed limits and all this sort of like safety systems they're adding to cars. And if you were, basically the idea was that if you're a good driver and the road systems, if they were better in this country, because in the 70s they really weren't that great. There's still not a lot of interstate built in the middle of the country, and like it would just make everything better. You'd be able to carry higher speeds. People would be able to get freely, quickly from coast to coast. So they decided to see how fast they could do it. And kind of a weird, I forget how they came up with the start and end points, but they just picked.
I mean, it makes sense, New York to L.A.
Yeah, but it's like, it's the Red Ball Garage, which is still there. It's right in Midtown, New York. And then it's the Portofino Inn in Redondo Beach, so it's right near L.A. And you think about it, it's kind of crazy to get there. They first did it in under like 35 hours, which is kind of bananas, right?
35 hours is very fast.
Yeah. And especially considering you have to get out of New York, which is very population dense, and then across the middle of the country, which is very open, and then once you get into California, it's very congested again into the LA area. So usually you leave, like, they always do it in the middle of the night to help you get out of New York City. And then I think, like, the goal is to be somewhere in, like, Illinois by dawn, which is kind of crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazingly fast. As somebody who's taken a few cross-country trips, that's an amazing feat.
Yeah. So it's been broken again. Now the record, like the really low record, because for a while there was actually Alex Roy did it in like 32 minutes.
32 minutes? Wow.
Sorry, 32 hours.
Yeah.
And that was probably in the early 2000s, I think, mid 2000s. And then in 2013, Ed Boland and crew did it in 28 hours and 50 minutes.
Right.
There's a Richard Rawlings record in there at some point, but I think a lot of people don't consider it valid because he wouldn't share the information with people on how he did it.
Correct.
Because
he says he did it.
Yeah, a lot of these other guys were very open with, like, if they wouldn't share it with, obviously, with the police or the public, but those who know how to do this drive, they would be willing to share it with them, like their toll receipts and all this stuff, and gas receipts, like proof of doing it this fast. That's really how it was, and like the GPS data in the later years. Actually, in the early days with Brock Yates, in the book, they talk about the only way they do it was they had to get like either toll receipts or the gas receipts, and then taking some pictures, on film, and that's how they proved it. But,
right. Do they have a time clock in the beginning and end too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2013, Ed Boland and his crew did 28 hours and 50 minutes. And then recently, apparently, Arnie Toman, yep, who we met at Radwood, Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah, because he's a serious Mitsubishi guy.
Yeah, he's got that really cool Galant Sigma.
Well, he is one of the co-founders of AMS.
Yes.
Who's really big in the Mitsubishi tuning world.
Yes, but he restored his 1988 Galant.
I think it was older. I think it was an 87.
87, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Either way, it was his mom's mom bought it brand new or something.
Yeah.
So.
the really French-looking Mitsubishis of the mid-'80s.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot of Citroën
Yeah.
styling cues inside and out, right down to the single spoke steering wheel.
So anyway, him and Doug Tabbitt and their spotter, Berkeley Chadwick, they made the dash in in 27 hours and 25 minutes on November 10th.
Which is insanely fast.
Yeah. So like I said, they did the classic route. They apparently averaged a speed of 103 miles an hour.
That's including stops.
That's your average speed, yeah, 103
Yeah.
miles an hour.
Oh, no, sorry, that was average moving speed. Does not include stops. I think they had that as a caveat to it.
Average moving speed was 104.
Oh, okay.
Included with stops, it's 103.
Okay. I know I'd read that somewhere there was a moving speed average.
Yeah.
And I think they had a top speed of like 190 or something, which is absolutely insane. I mean, obviously they did it in a fast car. They did it in a AMG something or other. A fairly new Mercedes-Benz AMG car.
A car that was built to cruise the Autobahn.
Right, which obviously the American-sold ones have a 155-mile-an-hour governor that they must have had a software shortcut to get through.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
The car had all the tech, radar
detectors.
detectors.
Radar detectors, radar jammers, red light controlling devices, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So and they had they put a 65-gallon fuel tank in it, I think, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is,
so because they only had 22 minutes of fuel stops.
Which is amazing. That's one stop in a Tesla.
Now, while the Cannonball is highly illegal, I find it pretty romantic.
Yeah, no, it's a neat story, and it's one of those things that kind of has a good bit of history with every group of car guys from the 70s till now, because it seems like somebody's always tried to do it.
Yeah, and
this isn't Arnie's first attempt either.
No,
he did it a couple years ago in like 33 hours.
Yeah.
In a Ford Crown Victoria.
Yeah, like a $500 Crown Victoria.
Yeah.
Because there was a group for a while that was doing it in crappy cars, and it wasn't necessarily to do it the fastest. It was just to like do it.
Yeah, I did that.
Junk cars.
I did that 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to retrace the route. Like that'd be really cool.
Sure, we can make that happen. Maybe that's what we should do for our 200th episode.
48 hours of just live podcasting.
No, we're not going to live podcast the whole time, but we can do a couple. I think it's a good idea, actually.
I don't want to do it at ultimate speed. I just want to retrace the original route.
No, just cruise across the country. We can do it in something.
But yeah, so that's.
I have plans to buy something this year, which will probably come from the East Coast, so we can drive across country in that.
Man moves to land of rust-free cars, decides to buy them on East Coast.
No, it's not coming from the East Coast. It's coming from a different country, and the port of entry will be the East Coast.
Okay.
Yes, that is the thought.
I see.
Yes.
So yeah, that's pretty big automotive news, and I mean, not much else is kind of going. It's kind of just the we're getting in the dark days of winter where I am. You've still got stuff going on out there, right?
That big lull over there. Yes, I definitely still have stuff going on. So I have a few things I'm prepping to do. I need to move along my Saab so I can get some money to put some suspension in the Eclipse.
Yeah.
That's the plan with that money. Because I would like to do the 50-year Storm rally is coming up in January, which is a 2-day rally, 2-day, 2-night rally in California. So we'll see what happens there.
So is the Saab on Facebook Marketplace?
It is. I need to update the listing now that I know more of what's going on with the braking system.
Should you just spend the $5 and throw it on Craigslist?
I probably will. I just hadn't done it yet, but now that I have more pictures and more information, I'll do that. I wanted to... everybody told me the car had no brakes, so I wanted to drive it myself and find out what was going on. Because people were asking me what's wrong with the brakes, and I was like, I don't know, it doesn't have them. But it does have brakes. It just has that one caliper that's hanging up. So what's happening is because the car sat and is currently sitting, one of the slide pins on one of the wheels is frozen. So when you hit the brakes the first time, the pedal goes pretty far down, but the second you pump it a second time, the brakes work fine. So the braking system is functioning minus one caliper, which is causing it not to have brakes the first time you hit the brakes, which is obviously not ideal. But we're talking about $1,000 car, and I don't live anywhere near this car, so somebody else can do the brakes when they buy it, and that's why it's $1,000. So
It's a fair price.
I think it's a fair price for a car that otherwise is mechanically really good.
And you're disclosing
So-
that it needs brakes beforehand. So it's like, yeah, $1,000.
And nobody's got a surprise here. Yeah,
Throw
exactly.
some brakes at it.
Right. So and that $1,000, the price that you can buy a good running driving car is going to buy me the suspension for the Eclipse. So that is the plan, to buy the same stuff you have for your car, because unfortunately the suspension in that car is pretty worn out. And after I did I drove across country, it was pretty low key, just highway cruising. It was a little bit wallowy, but it wasn't unbearably bad. I did that run out here with that Beyond Phoenix group, and we had a couple of spirited passes through the mountains. And when you're mid-turn, if you hit any kind of undulation or bump in the road, it upsets the car to an almost dangerous level because there's not enough dampening left. The struts are just worn beyond controlling the car. So I do want to change those out before I do anything else with the car, and I don't want to even sign up for the rally until I know I'll have suspension for the car, because I'm not going to take it otherwise. Because it wouldn't be good. And I know there's a lot of dirt roads in that run too, and the dirt roads that I ran here on the local event that I did were no fun with no suspension. So hopefully that'll happen. Maybe not.
Yep. So events coming up is Radwood LA.
Yes, and you will be there. That's actually in 4 days. Well, 2 days probably when this podcast comes out.
So we have to be out there for a wedding that's in Malibu. It just happened to be on the same weekend. I was like, well, I guess that works out. Lucky me.
Perfect.
The only problem is that Radwood is in somewhere. It's like west. It's way east of LA. In a park. I can't remember the name of the park. And then the wedding is in Malibu. And they're like 90 miles between them. Which is going to take me 3 hours to do in LA traffic.
Listen, if they can drive from New York to California in 27 hours, you can make it from point to point in California in 3.
Sure. I'll just get that helicopter.
Well, whatever you got to do.
Yeah. So I can only stay for a limited time at Radwood, but I'll at least go for a little while. And then I'll be kind of bumming around LA on Friday. I think I'm going to try to go to... I've never been to Amoeba Music.
Oh, it's a great store.
Yeah. I think I'm going to try to go there.
That's one of my favorites, actually.
And then maybe I heard Jerry's Deli is pretty cool.
Okay.
There's a lot of like New York style delis out there.
Yeah,
There's
probably.
displaced New Yorkers.
A lot of New Yorkers move out there.
And I like a good New York deli. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So if anyone's in the LA area on Friday, you want to hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be there. I have some family business to attend to here, so that's not gonna help. But I will be at the all Volkswagen air cooled Cars and Coffee Sunday morning here.
Oh, is that at 4 till 4?
It is not.
Where's that?
It is at a different place, and I wasn't prepared to talk about it. So there you go.
Okay, it's at I don't know, the Coffee Bean, the Human Grind.
You would rather just give wrong information than correct information?
Something.
So it
something
is
coffee.
at...
Something hipster coffee house in a shipping container.
Well, you were wrong. So it's at Phoenix Public Market.
Okay.
And there's free coffee.
Okay.
And it's all air-cooled Volkswagens and Porsches.
Oh, that's cool.
And that is this Sunday at 7 a.m.
Nice.
So I will be there for sure. And actually, planning on going because I can't get out of town, but I'm not completely tied down. I probably will be going to the Pavilion show this Saturday night too. So haven't brought the Eclipse down there yet, so that will be the first time for that. So
cool. Listen to all your Wingadinga music down there.
Whatever. Car culture is strong here, and I intend to participate in as much of it as possible.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so this week, Andrew. We can wrap it up there.
Yeah, sounds pretty good to me.
All right.
All right. So, as always, follow us on Facebook, Auto Off Topic Podcast. Auto Off Topic on Instagram. Me on Instagram, Raced in Anger. And TSIS350.
Yes, TSISS350.
Cool. Keep cars analog and aim for the roses.